Okay. Screw you, it's a rated adapter. I completely forgot I could charge my camera while recording. So, my worst game of... I forgot to post this. Someone made a really good Tumblr post. But now, I gotta go back. Because... Oh, okay, this time it's the guy with the snowblower. That was the tractor plowman again. This is the game I bought myself. And I'm not afraid to express my opinion on this, because as I'm reviewing it, I'm going to go through what I was writing when I was live blogging about it, and I was also showing it off to some of my friends, streaming it via creative camera hookups and everything. And it ended up being the video game equivalent of RiffTrax. Now, I'm going to give this game credit where it's due. There's some really good acting in it, and the graphics are really good. What makes this the worst game of 2013 in my book is the writing, the story, and the sheer stupidity of the entire game. Brace yourselves, people. I mean, I didn't like The Last of Us, okay? I'm going to flat out say that, but I can appreciate how people would say it's a good game. I can appreciate the fact that people like it, because, again, giving credit where it's due, The Last of Us did at least try to do horror right. I don't think it did it right, but it did do it completely wrong. You know, I'm going to give it credit where it's due. It should have been more... I think the survival mechanic should have been a bit more fleshed out, for one, but that's a... I already ranted on that game. Wait, there we go. Oh my fucking God. I beat this game yesterday, and I was going to record this video yesterday. There's a reason I didn't. One, I realized this is... For those of you who saw my Amazing Spider-Man review, when it was about 4 videos long, expect something like this. Now, I'm not counting the last 2 videos I did with the Game of the Year stuff. That's the prologue. There's so much wrong with the story in this game that I'm anticipating this being about 4 or 5 videos long, so brace yourselves. I hope you watch all the videos. You don't have to watch them all at once. I'm not going to hold that against you. Your time is valuable. I don't want you to just sit here for an hour listening to me to rant about this game unless you absolutely fucking want to. Go ahead. Pace yourselves, by all means. If you disagree with any point, because I'm basing this on my playthrough, so I admit there's probably going to be a lot of stuff I missed in the story, but I don't intend on playing through it again for 2 reasons, and I'll get into both of those here in a second. This is based on my playthrough, so if in your playthrough you find something different, feel free to explain that to me, and I'll take that into consideration and see if that does make it slightly better or not. But I don't intend on playing through it for 2 reasons. One, David Cage, who wrote this game and Heavy Rain, which I'm going to flat out say there's going to be a lot of Heavy Rain comparisons, I'm betting. Especially with one scene in particular. Said that his games are only meant for 1 playthrough. And while I don't respect David Cage as a writer at this point in time, I respect his view on that, because these aren't really games in the gaming sense. They're games, but they're interactive movies. Now, with Heavy Rain, it does kind of warrant multiple playthroughs because the story's so damn open-ended at points where it literally can change who lives, who dies, and how the game ends. This leads me to the other reason I don't intend on playing this shitty-ass game again. Only one option affects the end of the game. Now, this isn't who lives or who dies, because that can happen in the end of the game only, apparently, from what I've heard, based on your choices, but it doesn't really affect the ending of the game, which, this last choice doesn't affect the ending of the game, really. All it affects is Jodie there, or is Jodie here? Is she alive, or is she dead? Okay, yeah, I spoiled that. Sort of. Yeah, I shit you not. The only difference is she physically there or not? Is she physically in our world or not? That's the only fuck difference. That's not the issue I have with the game, though. That's why I'm never going to play it again. Now, instead of just reviewing this game, I'm going to go through the progression of Rage via Tumblr and Facebook, because I was doing Tumblr and Facebook on this game. I was live blogging it, I was streaming it. Hang on a second, sorry about that. Okay, yeah, I think that was a Tumblr or Facebook only post. Now, my first post. This is after my first playing of this game. I really want to like Beyond Two Souls. I really do. I loved Indigo Prophecy and Heavy Rain, but Beyond Two Souls is so far a really mixed bag. The graphics look phenomenal and the voice acting is great, but the gameplay and writing, sheesh. It will never be over was about as stupid as a line as Silent Hill Revelations, "Go back to hell. Don't you get it? We're already there." The party was both predictable and yet felt awkwardly out of place. And yes, this is the party where she goes to a girl's party, not knowing the girl, gets flirted with by this creepy British boy. I mean, seriously, this guy was sending chills down my spine. And then they immediately slut-shame her, say her gift, a book of poems by Edgar Allan Poe, is stupid, and then lock her in a closet. I'm going to come back to that. But being a writer, there's one thing I can't forgive. They bring up a plot point, and just go to the next segment that has nothing to do with it. I want to know more about the monsters, not her CIA training. Now, someone did, reply to this. Now I gotta go back, because that's all Battlefield 4. Someone did reply to this, brought up a point. I think it was more of a misunderstanding of what I was saying, but I saw where they're coming from, and they're absolutely right. Here we go. I see where you're coming from, but my issue... sorry, that's mine. And she says, in my opinion, the unimportant parts were important because they taught you basic game mechanics, but that's just my take on it. I'm not saying skip the CIA part altogether. What I'm saying is, they show her with these scratches all over her. Nathan Dawkins asks her where they came from. She goes, "They're from the monsters." And they cut to the CIA training. That has nothing to do with the monsters. That is bad writing. They introduce this thing that they do eventually come back to a long time afterwards, and then immediately drop it. Okay, can you imagine watching Blade Runner and they go, "Hey, here's First, the replicants were going to explain that they are now programmed with memories. By the way, here's a presidential speech. Here's another speech by this guy. Here's a cop making origami. Here's Gaff making origami, beating the cop making origami. Oh, now back to the replicants. Oh, what? You don't remember that now? It's even worse with a game like this, because there's so many things you can interact with that by the time you get back to the monsters, you're kind of like, wait, what? Huh? I actually, because I did quit playing for the day and came back after playing Battlefield 4 and Call of Duty. No, I'm sorry, Skyrim, then Call of Duty. I went back, and like 7 chapters later, there's the monsters. I'm like, what the fuck are these things? I'll come back to that. My reply to her was, I see where you're coming from, but my issue is more with the filming, the timing of the cut than it wanted it cut to. They introduced an interesting idea and immediately cut to something unrelated. It feels like a cheap way to build suspense about that one part. But figuring this, the monsters could have been one of the most intriguing parts of the story had they been done right, but that's another post. It feels like a bad attempt to keep the player in the game longer just to solve the mystery, and that's exactly what it is. Once it's revealed, though, it's pretty meh. I've seen similar plots, the monsters, done better by other games, movies, and books. Yeah. I'll really get back to that when I start talking about the monsters here. I also think the game would be so much better if it was told in order, not jumping around through her life. It feels forced, but that, again, is another post. Now, I am going to talk about that. That is the damning quality of what I'm talking about, where they introduce an important plot point and then jump to something else. The only time in the game that they go back to her past and introduce a plot point and go to the present/future appropriately is when they introduce a plot point of her talking to the dead spirits of Nathan's wife and daughter as a child, and then cut back towards the end of the game where he's trying to bring the souls of his wife and daughter back. That's the only time it's appropriate. But there's the other problem with this. If they told the game in order, you would just see how half-assed her talking to Nathan through, or using the spirits and talking to Nathan through, or the spirits talking to Nathan through her was. Because you'll get the part where young Jodie's doing it, then go through the rest of the game to the homeless part, and if you're very, very careful, when all the homeless people are having dinner, if you use Aiden, you'll see Stan's wife standing there next to him. Why? In God's name, didn't she do anything about it? If you play the game in order and you've Jodie talking or you being used as a channel, go through the rest of the game and then towards the end, it is so spaced out. It's kind of like even if you play it in order, you completely forget that she is a medium. Well, sort of. She can communicate with Aiden, but you completely forget that spirits can communicate through her, and then it's reintroduced. I seriously got to the point where young Jodie's doing this, and then it gets to the point where he wants Jodie to do that, and I'm like, wait a minute, what about Stan? What about Jay and Cody? Why didn't she do this? Well, that would have made the whole Navajo thing easier, because she would have been talking to the spirits who were fighting Yesietso to figure out what she needed to do. But no, we're going to do a much more interesting thing and have her scan the objects. No, she could have just fucking talked to them. It's a massive plot hole that is never once explained. It's like introduced towards the end of the game, and then once you realize that she can do that since she was a kid, you start to think, why did she do this these other times? Okay, hang on a second. Let me breathe. Why this part in particular right now upsets me is the book I'm writing has a lot to do with psychics, has a lot to do with spirits, vampires, stuff like that. And the main character immediately, in fact, when he was a kid, solves a murder case by communicating with the spirit of the dead person. That's not simply brought up at the end of the book and dropped. That's a recurring theme, because it's a series. That's a recurring theme, is that he can do this. It's a recurring theme that he can feed off of the thoughts of other people, and that's why he's solving murder cases. It's a recurring theme that there's spirits guarding people. It's all introduced. I mean, hell, hang on, let me open the document, because I'm just starting chapter 8. And I just introduced all the main players throughout the first year of the series. 79 pages, 32,335 words long. And I'm only on chapter 8. I'm anticipating it being a very long book. But all the stuff you need to know for this book has been introduced. And it's all important to the book. You don't... Okay. I'm going to use Blade Runner again. Can you imagine how half-assed the story would be? If Deckard was hunting the replicants in the last 5 minutes, that's when they introduced Rachel? That is the equivalent to Heavy Rain. Beyond Two Souls introducing the whole thing where she can talk to spirits in the last 2 missions. Yeah, I'm just starting on this. Now, the second post I made. Hang on a second, I'm sorry. My guinea pigs are a bit frightened right now, and I apologize to you guys, especially Dovahkiin. Yeah, Dovahkiin. I stopped calling it Beyond Two Souls at this point. I started calling it Ellen Page's Life of Mystery. Today on Ellen Page's Life of Mystery, ambushed in front of homeless people by men standing right in front of her. More ghost octobrains and wait, I skipped one. Hang on a second. I think I did skip one because I had to go forward to the other post. No, I didn't. Never mind. Let me check the Facebook, because that might be the post. Let me scroll down. No, I'll get to that one later. Okay, yeah. I didn't put this one on Tumblr, it was on Facebook. Last night on Ellen Page's Life of Mystery, Ellen fights the ghost of the Octobrains from Duke Nukem Forever. I would say teenage Ellen, but considering the fact that I'm not sure how old she's supposed to be at any point in the game, and because she always looks 14, I could be wrong. Now, I'm going to leave it there because I'm going to get to the second post and discuss the monsters here in a bit. But one of the biggest problems is they make no effort to distinguish Ellen Page's age through any point in time, except for when she's homeless and they make her look slightly haggard. But yeah, next video I'm going to be talking about the monsters. I have no idea how long that's going to take, but stay tuned.